So welcome to another episode of TSP, the Skullbutt Podcast, where we sit with America's heroes and get their stories. Andrew, how you doing?
Hi, Commander. How are you?
I swear it feels like it's been a million years since we sat here.
It feels like it's been like a month or 2 months since we've been here.
Feels like it's been a long time.
But it's a crazy time because it's holidays. Like we've got to take a little bit of a break to spend it with family.
Our guest is probably going to disagree with this, and I will disagree with him right back.
Yeah.
But if you looked up in the dictionary the definition of a hero, I'm pretty sure you would see the Master Chief's picture.
Yep, definitely.
So our guest is a Master Chief. He is a hospital corpsman, and he's not only a hospital corpsman, he's a combat corpsman embedded with the Marine Corps.
Hoo-yah!
Hoorah.
So one quick question. I know people don't like when I ask this question. Roundabout number, how many people you think you saved in your life?
Oh, wow. Well, probably about as many that saved me. No, I'm joking. I've never been asked that question, but I would say a lot.
Yeah, I would assume a lot. So I don't know for sure, but I met you at a district meeting, and you were wearing your ribbons. You have a Purple Heart.
I do.
What is your? I'm going to go a little bit backwards. I'm going to ask you these simple questions, and we're going to go back to square one.
All right.
What does your fruit salad look like these days?
It's pretty big. I've seen it.
Yeah,
it's big.
It's impressive.
Yeah, well, it's a couple here and there.
It could drop panties.
So modest.
It's a couple here and there. But no, I just, when you get tagged as a corpsman to be with the Marines, you have a tendency to keep going right back to them. And, I made it to Master Chief in the Navy, but I was never once assigned to a ship. So I went where the Marines went. And those ribbons represent a lot of countries, a lot of sacrifice, a lot of operations, a lot of combat tours.
Yes.
That's really the culmination of just having
You have a
full
gold
career.
star on your combat action ribbon, right? A couple, right?
I have a couple.
You have a couple. Do they do like a cluster for combat action ribbon, gold star? Like you get like 5, you get a cluster.
Well, no, it's not a cluster. The Army does clusters.
Okay.
For the Navy, you go from gold to silver. So, like for my Navy achievement, I have 6 of those. So I turned in
crap.
5 gold.
That's a lot of NAMs.
for a silver star on that
Oh, man.
So I was also in the Navy, but my Navy is completely different than your Navy.
Hey, the Navy is the Navy. The business of the Navy is saving lives.
Yes.
Well,
And you guys both did it.
one team, one fight.
One team, one fight.
That's right.
But I was an admin. I was on a boat. I never saw combat. I was in the middle of the ocean. I've been to plenty of countries. My time in service is a lot different than your two's time in service. I never got shot at. You guys been shot.
I've been, yeah.
Thank you, sir.
You've been shot at, right, Master Chief?
Was-
Couple times?
Just a few times.
Yeah, me too.
Just
So,
a few times.
So let's go back. So you're 17, 18-year-old kid. You're high school. Why did you join the military? What's your story?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
My story.
Let's hear it, Master Chief.
My story. Okay.
First of all, I don't want to interrupt you. Just for our listeners who don't know, we keep calling this man Master Chief.
Oh, yeah.
The Master Chief is the highest an enlisted person can go in the United States Navy. They start at a seaman recruit, the very
E1.
bottom, E1. Master Chief is E9, the very top of the ladder. So this
It's
is
like a sergeant major in the Marine Corps or the Army. I don't even know what it is in the Air Force. What is that?
this is the way I explain to my wife. So you have God, you have Jesus Christ, and you have everybody else. Master Chief is between Jesus Christ and God.
That's pretty good.
On some small boats and ships, that's probably true to a large degree. I tell people, just like with the Navy, when you get to those senior enlisted ranks, it's not, that respect is earned because of those that went before you and forged that. And the respect is given to the chiefs community in the Navy is widely because chiefs have stepped up and taken greater and greater and greater levels of responsibility that it's unparalleled in any other branch of service. The senior enlisted rank in the Navy is capable of doing so much and is given the latitude to do that. So that's what makes it so unique, I think.
Army, Marine Corps, Air Force, they just called you out.
Well, I wouldn't say that.
The Chiefs are a special breed.
They have to be.
They are.
And you guys get hazed for like a week. the Chiefs hazing, right?
Well, it is the only
that's crazy
fraternity in the military that's actually accepted. And you do go through an initiatory process. They call it induction now.
Yeah, and it's a year long. Right?
For me, it was several months long.
Oh, really?
So
Okay.
as soon as you find out you made E7, which is Chief, it's game on. I went through in Hawaii with 3rd Marines, and it was back when the Marine Corps had the big hazing where they're punching stuff in. So the commanding general of the base said, not on my base. So I had to, all the FMF Fleet Marine Force guys from Kaneohe Bay had to go out to Barber's Point, which is the air station out there before they closed down. And we did our initiation out there. It was quite interesting.
I bet it was.
Awesome. So, all right. I got sidetracked.
We did.
Let's go back to you're 17 years old.
17 years old. Well, I actually went to a Navy ROTC high school. And the interesting thing is I had a development in my life at that time where I had to drop out of that school, even though I went to it 2.5 years. I was in my very last quarter of my senior year. I dropped from that school, transferred to a regular high school in another location where I met my wife of 34 years now.
Nice. Congratulations.
So I kind of knew going at school what it was about. They let you go to miniature boot camps and do different things in the school. And I gotten accustomed to it. And I was a chief in high school, which is interesting, the rank. But I knew what I wanted to do, and I joined pretty much at 17 on delayed entry program in 1987. Yes, like I said, met my high school sweetheart on the school bus, and
I was 10.
I
was 10 years old when you joined.
Yep. And it wasn't long before we got married, and I was in the Navy. And my very first duty station, I didn't know. Actually, I went in as an air deal. I went in to be air. I didn't go in to be medical. And when I graduated boot camp, they said they canceled the school. And I'm like, what do you mean they canceled the school? So they had the option at that point of getting out of the Navy or just choosing another job field. And they handed me this big book, and I'm like, just looking through. I had no idea what any of it meant. I said, oh, corpsman, that looks pretty interesting. I get to do this and this.
Yeah, to say the
I didn't
least.
see the fine print where it says you may be assigned to the Marine Corps. And so I said, I'll take this one. I'm like, oh, that's great. So they sent me to Corps School, and then all of a sudden I get orders to attend Marine Corps training at Camp Pendleton to be a Fleet Marine Force corpsman. And I'm like, I was genuinely upset. I joined the Navy. I didn't join the Marine Corps. And I was a little bit bitter my first year or two. And then when I got the Marines and started doing all that high-speed, low-drag stuff, I'm like, oh, this actually isn't too bad. I enjoy this. So that was all history after that. When you do what you enjoy, it's makes life so much easier.
All right. I'm going to date myself. I joined the delayed entry program in 1984.
Wow.
I was in California watching my first Olympics when you went in. I was like a baby.
Yeah. I joined delayed entry 1984. I actually shipped out January 28th, 1985.
Nice.
Some days you never forget the dates, you know what I'm saying?
That's so true.
I remember December 17th, 2004. That's when I was assigned to 3rd Battalion, 8th Marines. Right after Camp Geiger, just get on the little bus and just go up the road. Okay, now your life is hell for the next 4 years.
Yeah.
Thank you, 3A. But it's something I wouldn't give back at all. I love my 3A brothers. I loved my corpsmen. You guys taught me how to be a combat lifesaver. And I got a funny story about the combat lifesaver, okay? Because you've probably done this. You've probably done the CLS class and given it many times.
Teaching it, yeah.
Okay. I had a very drunk night one night. And the next day, we had combat life-saving school. We were doing IVs. I bled like a motherfucker. All over. I was all over the place. So don't drink before you have combat life-saving school at all.
That's probably very good advice.
Yeah.
You'll definitely be dehydrated. Those veins are harder to find.
I think our listeners are picking up every time Andrew says I have a funny story. It always starts with I was drunk.
I was drunk because that was my life. I mean,
It reminds me of a Marine master gunnery sergeant.
oh, Master Guns, hoorah!
And he goes by the name of Rex. And I'd be like, "Hey, Rex, do you remember when this happened or that happened?" And his first response was I drinking?
That's and Master Guns is the same rank as you.
Correct.
E9.
Correct.
So Master Guns is like a unicorn too, like Master Chief.
Oh, yeah.
What year did you don the E7?
That was in 1998 in Kaneohe Bay, Hawaii. An interesting thing, I was with 2nd Battalion, 3rd Marines there, 3rd Marine Regiment. And 3rd Marine Regiment is very different from any other Marine Corps regiment because they have one less battalion. All the other Marine Corps regiments have another battalion. So your out tempo, meaning how often you deploy, is a lot higher. And I just got my 2-3 and we had a battalion surgeon. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. Probably a good reason for that. But I was a healthcare provider. I was an independent duty corpsman at the time, and we would take turns treating patients. One day I come in, he'd treat patients, and I go do something else and whatever. And when it's his time to see patients right before deployment, he always said he was sick and he wanted me to see the patients or whatever the case is. Anyway, long story short, we get forward deployed in Okinawa, and I take half the battalion up to Mount Fuji. He takes the other battalion to Korea. We get back from that in Okinawa, and one of my guys comes up to me and says, "Hey, I think the doc's like taking narcotics." I'm like, "No way." He's like, "Yeah." And they had all these pills weren't accounted for. So anyway, long story short, he was taking them. He was addicted to them. This doctor with 3rd Marines here. And so they stripped him out of the battalion. That was back when you only had 2 providers per Marine Corps battalion. Now, a battalion is about 850 strong. And so as an E6, I was the primary healthcare provider for this entire battalion.
Whoa!
I carried him through everything. So I was the acting doctor, I was the acting chief, and I was basically leading all these other corpsmen that were in the battalion aid station. So when I came back from that deployment, we're back in Hawaii. Well, I mean, they put me in. I just kept winning SEAL of the Year because my responsibility and the level of things I'd done as an E6 were so. The magnitude was at such a high level that's really what pinned on Chief for me.
Yeah.
Was that deployment.
That's a lot of stuff under one billet.
It is a lot of
I
stuff.
mean, you were acting 3 different billets.
Pretty much.
As an E6.
Oh, yeah.
That's pretty crazy.
But that's not uncommon in the Chiefs community in the Navy to do that even. So, absolutely. But grateful for those experiences for sure.
How many combat deployments do you have?
Oh God,
roughly 4 or 5.
Iraq and Afghanistan.
No Afghanistan.
All Iraq.
Me neither. No,
Never did Afghanistan. Yeah, I remember 2004 specifically because I did a lot of deployments with the Marine Corps, but I also did a lot of deployments that were independent, Joint Special Operations, Marine Corps Recon. And then there were a couple of what we would call presidential assignments. And 2 of those were MIA POW recoveries. And so I did one in Vietnam back in 2001. And then I did another one in 2004 to North Korea.
North Korea?
North Korea?
Not South Korea, North Korea.
Damn.
And it was an interesting story because I was actually on shore duty, what we call shore duty.
Shore duty.
Yeah. I was actually at the Mountain Warfare Training Center in the Marine Corps, and then I got augmented to stand up a expeditionary medical facility in Kuwait and during the Iraqi War, and I was the senior enlisted leader for 11 clinics throughout the country, and then we closed a few down, built a few more, did all these different things with that. But as soon as I came back from that, was when I went to North Korea, and that was for 5 months.
So I don't understand. I thought we weren't allowed in North Korea.
It was the only time that there was an agreement because money talks.
Yeah.
And I think they started about 6 years prior to 2004. So it was like 90, like 98, something like that. And we would pay North Korea astronomical amounts of money to go over there and dig for remains.
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah.
It helped their economy. It was a good thing.
That makes
It was
sense.
very
Yeah.
controlled. We couldn't wear uniforms, no arms. As a matter of fact, it was so controlled, we couldn't have anything. We couldn't even have a newspaper. We couldn't have a Stars and Stripes. You couldn't have computers. You couldn't have cameras. Everything was controlled in North Korea. And when we got there, we set up a base camp, and we were put at the south end of a North Korean army camp. And the North Koreans set up a perimeter around us about every 20 feet with armed guards. It took me 2 weeks just to talk them into doing PT to go down the road. And they finally approved it. And guess what they did? They put armed guards all the way down the road on both sides so we couldn't see what was going on. But yeah, we would get out there and we would dig, and we actually brought back 3 sets of remains.
Yeah. Okay. So that makes sense, because I've heard that, so-and-so's coming home from North Korea. I'm like, how are they finding these guys? I'm sure North Koreans aren't just turning these remains over.
Well, you would be surprised. Okay, so when we were giving North Korea money for these remains, what happened is they realized that those remains counted to money. And so the story is that is very reliable that I've heard is that they would go and dig up these remains, and they had them in warehouses, and that they could just sell us the bones. And our government was like, no, that's not what we want.
Yeah.
We want to go there and we want to dig them up. We want to give closure to these families.
Yes.
We want to give closure to the people that served with them. We don't just want you handing us bones from a warehouse here.
Yeah.
So anyway, 2004 is when I went over there, and it was the very last mission to ever go. I was with the very last American military unit to go up there, because when we were there, the North Koreans shot a test missile over the Sea of Japan. And at the time, the president considered it an act of war. As a matter of fact, we were to the point where we had a VHF radio, and we were trying to listen to BBC News because there was nothing in country. And we actually had escape plans because we didn't know if we were going to be political prisoners.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
didn't know what was going on. Okay,
That's what I would be worried about.
We're going to go up here to China. We're going to do this. We're going to do that.
Was that the summertime of 2004?
No, it was more in the spring.
Okay.
It's right around
That was right
March,
before
April,
I
May.
went to boot camp.
Yeah. So once that happened and our team was done, the Pentagon pulled the plug and said that was it. So they have never sent another team back up there since.
Did you get a puck for that? Presidential unit citation?
No. It actually was the joint POW-MIA accounting office out of Hickam Air Force Base, but the Army runs it.
Don't they? Isn't that like that's a thing, like a nonprofit? Don't they have one on top of that go out and find remains?
It's not. It's an actual sanctioned military.
Oh, okay.
unit. So the Army runs it. It's out of Hickam Air Force Base, but they do recoveries from every war that America's ever fought in. So if there's evidence that a Revolutionary War hero might be, that he was MIA or whatever, and they have evidence that he could be buried somewhere, they'll still send a team to this day to go back and try to recover that.
Wow.
Every war we've ever fought, Battle of 1812.
Yeah, we got one here in Murfreesboro. Captain Lytle.
Yeah.
He's buried by the Haynes Lumber.
The story's going to go off a little bit, but in 2011, I was honored by my hometown, Dearborn, Michigan, as Veteran of the Year. And what got me the distinction of Veteran of the Year was the year before that, I found out that there was cremains all across the city of veterans, and funeral homes, hospitals, and I really couldn't believe it myself. So I started doing some digging, and sure enough, there was. I uncovered 25 military veterans, and the range was from World War I to present day. There's 25 of them, and one spouse, because we all know that if a spouse passes away, they get to be buried with the veteran. So I took these 25 cremains, and I set up a ceremony. The there was laws in place that you couldn't just go to the funeral home and take these cremains. So a friend of mine who has recently passed, his name's Gino Polidori. He was also a veteran, but he was the state representative for the state of Michigan. And so he authored a bill, and the governor signed it, which stated that if there's a cremain of a veteran at the hospital, VA hospital, regular hospital, or a funeral home that's been sitting on the shelves of the basement, that a veteran organization can go and claim them as next of kin. But we had to do our due diligence and send out a letter to the last known family.
Right.
So I sent out all these letters out, and like 5 or 6 of them came back and says, "Oh no, that's my uncle so-and-so, or that's so-and-so. I want them back." And I was like, "Well, we're going to do this kick-ass ceremony for them. Are you sure you don't want them in this?" And they're like, "No, I want them." So my first question was, okay, why didn't you go get them 40 years ago?
Right.
Why you waiting till today until I sent out this letter? But anyways, I not just me, but I led it. So I had a whole team. We laid to rest 19 souls plus a spouse. And it, like I said, it ranged from the oldest was World War I. The guy's name was Carl Baller. And we did this amazing ceremony where, like, I even went as far as went and purchased a replica of a caisson and had their cremains on the caisson, and the horse-drawn caisson went down Michigan Avenue and stopped in front of the city hall. They did this amazing ceremony, and after the ceremony, we put them on the hearse, and they were interned at the National Cemetery in Michigan, and it was amazing.
That is amazing. You know, it makes you wonder how many places even today that is an issue where you have, remains sitting in, some location have never been claimed like that of veterans.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Newspaper, national newspaper. What's the financial newspaper? The Wall Street Journal. They found out about it and they contacted me, and they did a story. And I was praying to God that the story would be on the cover. And I so wanted this story on the cover, and it didn't make the cover, but it made the second page. A whole story, second page was our story, and it was freaking awesome.
Well, I don't know about you, but when I did those, people asked me, what was the most memorable moments you've ever had in your career? And I've had some very memorable ones, 27-year career. And I would have to say that both of those missions I did for POW MIA recovery were probably the most memorable thing I've ever done in my entire career.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It's just no explaining the feeling it is to bring closure to these families, to honor that veteran in the appropriate way, and it just symbolizes what we as a nation stand for. Not leaving, a brother or sister behind.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's funny, the day of the event, it was huge. There was like 10,000 people lined Michigan Avenue all the way up and down, and we were a little leery of the ceremony because Dearborn, Michigan is high Muslim population, so we didn't know how this was going to go with
Dearborn than the entire country.
So we're worried about the American flag flying down.
Right.
We didn't want them to think it was like a AFU in your neighborhood, but that wasn't about it all. So at the end of the ceremony, the city was putting me on the service ended there, and then the city put us on a bus to take us back because it was Memorial Day also. So we were doing a Memorial Day parade, but we didn't want the deceased in the parade, so it was 2 separate events. We did the ceremony for the 19 lost, and then we went back to the beginning of the parade route and did the parade. But as the city was trying to swoop me away to put me on the bus and go back to the parade route, a reporter stopped, and I remember this like it was yesterday, put his mic in my face and said, "Hey, what do you think about the family not picking up these veterans?"
Oh, wow.
And I said, "What are you talking about? The family did pick them up." And he looked at me like this dumb look on his face, and I was like, "We're all family, dude." And I hopped on the bus and took off, and the guy was just like amazed by my answer. I was like, "No, we're all family, man."
Absolutely. And that's why I tell people, it's everybody that has joined the military, it's regardless of whether or not, you sat at a desk or you're forward deployed all the time. There's one thing that we all have in common, and that is that we made considerable sacrifices so that those here in this country can continue the freedoms they enjoy. And, make no mistake about it, you lose a lot when you join. You do.
Yeah.
You can't talk, ill of your chain of command. You kind of lose your freedom of speech in so many ways. You give up a lot of rights.
Pull you away from your family for months on end.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so, that's something that as veterans that I think unites all of us and makes us that family that you're speaking of, is because we're aware of those sacrifices. And you don't have to be a combat veteran. You don't have to be, this war hero or anything else to be recognized for the sacrifices that you've made,
Right.
That's really.
Yeah. I tell everybody, like, I literally walk with the best war fighters on this planet. Yeah. I had an office desk. I was a yeoman. I was the air boss's yeoman on an aircraft carrier. I did my job. My evals were always 3.6 and higher. So I feel like that's a very good score. For people that don't know, every year sailors get graded.
Pros and cons.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and so
all of us.
The highest.
I can't even remember my pros and cons. They were probably in the middle.
Yeah, mine were pretty bad my first tour or two, maybe.
every 12 months you get graded, and the highest is, I don't know what it is in the Marine Corps, but in the Navy it's 4.0. So
it's 4040. It's an awesome Marine.
It's unheard of.
3.6.
Yeah, mine were 3.6s all the time. So I'm pretty proud of being a 3.6 sailor.
Dude, hey, you are a great person, Commander Flake. You know this.
But when I got out of the Navy, when I got out of the Navy, I was kind of lost a little bit because, you go from this very structured organization to this, like, all right, see you later. And like, I went back out into humanity and I was like, all right, what the fuck do I do now? Like, I had no direction. I got a girlfriend pregnant. The whole situation was ugly. We didn't get along. I don't even know why I was with her. Like, it was ugly. We split up. I didn't see my daughter until she was 25 years old. That's how bad it was. Shortly after that, I met my wife. It was literally love at first sight. Saw my wife. I was like, oh my God, I'm in love. She hated me. I kept on it. Next month we'll be 30 years married, by the way. But so
day?
February 21st,
okay,
1992.
Don't worry, I'll put that on Facebook.
Yeah, but my point is, like, I struggled, and my wife kept saying, "Why don't you join an organization?" I'm like, I don't. I'm a nobody. You know what I'm saying? These guys are, like, at this time, the Vietnam veterans were all coming through. Because this is 1989, 1990. So they're the Vietnam veterans are coming through, and I'm like, man, I don't deserve to walk with these guys. Turns out I ended up joining this organization. The very first organization I joined was the American Legion, VFW, Dearborn Allied War Veterans Council. But my point is, I felt bad because all my friends, everybody that I hung out with, 99% of my friends are all veterans. They're all war veterans, like the two people I'm standing with right now. I am not. I sat behind a desk. So I always felt guilty. Then 9/11 happened in 2001. At that time, I was already 30-some years old, and I had 3 children. My wife and I had 3 children. So, like, I felt bad. I couldn't go with my brothers. My brothers that I still serve with and are members of the VFW, Paulie,
And
Anthony, John Foster, they all retired. They were still in at that time. So I felt guilty. So what I did after 9/11, I started joining these organizations. I started donating my time. I started community service.
Finding your tribe again.
I did. And I dug in deep, and since then I've done some amazing things. I've broke bread with multiple Medal of Honor recipients. The Secretary of the Navy, I got his coin over there.
You've been All-American.
All-American, yeah.
Hopefully for a third time this year.
So that's what I did. I mean, you guys got shot at. What I do is I took my life, and I like honor you guys, so I just keep doing what I do. So that's how I serve.
And you've done a great job at it.
Well, and I think service, for those of people who are listening, it's not just about, bearing arms or even for that matter, being in the military. It's about serving each other. Mm-hmm. And, I often, ask people, I used to ask my sailors all the time, I said, live your life as if somebody is reading a book about you generations later and how you would have wanted to have lived. And then live your life also as if you're writing your own eulogy. What would you want said?
Yes.
How would you want that read?
That's very stoic of you, by the way, Master
and it
Chief.
is. I mean,
I love that.
But the thing is that service and our ability to impact others, and this is what I mean, especially from a veteran standpoint of view. It doesn't matter what job you did. When you signed that line, you signed that dotted line, you knew that meant giving your life. You made a commitment to sacrifice your life for your nation, and what better thing to do than to serve others, because that is truly the legacy we leave behind. I've never seen a U-Haul foul a hearse. And when we're dust and ashes years from now, the only thing that is really going to remain, the remnants of each of us, is that impact that we left on others and that generational impact from there, because what you're doing right now is just as bit of important, and what you did on that ship as a yeoman or anybody out there is just as important, because had those roles not occurred, everything above it and everything that was coordinated through it would not have occurred either.
Hey, I'd rather get shot at than go through the shellback ceremony again, okay? You went through that. I did too. I'd rather get shot at than go through that.
Yeah, most Marines, because they're wussies.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you had to eat the cherry out of the fat cheese. Olive, whatever.
Yeah.
We didn't have that.
Yeah.
It was very, very watered down when I went through that shellback ceremony.
By the way, he knows I'm kidding about the Marines being wussies.
No, I know, man.
I'm more Marine than I am Navy, and that's the thing I tell a lot of my Marines, because I'm with the Marine Corps League, and I love the Marine Corps. I absolutely love them. And so during my retirement, it was a beautiful, beautiful retirement I had. It was kind of traditional to have the Chief of Naval Operations letter read as a Master Chief.
That's pretty cool.
That is awesome.
And I had one, but it just so happened that I also had the Commandant of the Marine Corps.
Which one?
Letter, Amos.
Oh, Amos, yeah.
Yeah. And so
I never met him, but I've heard great things about him.
Well, as a Navy Master Chief, I decided to have the Marine Corps Commandant's letter read at my ceremony vice.
That's cool.
So it's just how I feel, because most of my career has been with the Marine Corps. And, I love the Marine Corps in so many ways versus other services, because I've never been a political person. I don't know how I made it to Master Chief. Not
I was going to say.
that big
You
of a
played the game good, Master Chief.
But I like just getting the job done, getting in there and getting it done at all
To
costs.
the mission, yeah, and that's to the mission. And that's the same thing we do in the Marine Corps League, VFW, American Legion, DAV, all the VSOs. It's our mission to help other veterans.
Got to leave the egos at the door when it comes to helping others. Because,
definitely.
If you can't do that, then it's a clear indication that you're not taking care of yourself. So therefore, how are you going to?
How can you take care of other people if you don't have your own checks and balances done?
I just want to add, because somebody's going to check me on this. How is he the commander of the VFW if he's never been to war? I went to Korea.
Well, and Korean Defense Service Medal counts.
No, it does. 30 plus, 60 plus days. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So can we talk about your Purple Heart and the day that you earned? How many Purple Hearts did you?
I have one.
One. Can we talk about that?
One too many.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the, when I should have ducked instead of zigged or zagged, right? It's the zig and zag medal, I guess.
Was it a gunshot? Was it a
I zagged when I was
RPG?
supposed
Was
to
it
zig, so that's how I got mine.
was it an IED? What was it?
It was a rocket and mortar attack. It was. I was actually up in the green zone, because I was
Baghdad.
I was on a very small team. We had 1,200 team down in Numaniyah, Iraq. We were embedded with the Iraqi army. So 12 Americans on a base of 10,000 Iraqis.
But what was the pucker factor there?
Quite extensive because during that time we had a bunch of insurgents that killed a lot of our Marines down in Basra, just south of us. And it wasn't long after that where those insurgents embedded themselves in the Iraqi boot camp. So we had a lot of deaths on base, a lot of pop shots taken at us, a lot of mortars coming in, things of that nature. But I was actually going to be the financial and purchasing officer agent for my team. So I had to go up to Baghdad because it was an Army billet under General Petraeus that I was filling. And so I had to go up there for training to become a financial and purchasing agent. Then they would give me all this money. I could keep in my safe to pay off sheiks, whatever we need.
How much money? Can you talk about that?
I can't really disclose how much, but it was...
Sorry, Patriot Act.
It was quite
that was
significant.
That was a good question, though.
Yeah, quite significant.
More than $5 million?
No.
Okay.
No. Yeah, it was significant, though. And it was the time before they really built the wall outside of Baghdad. So they were just plopping stuff in, 80, 100 incoming a day during that time frame. And I remember that day pretty vividly. I was getting a Gatorade and a pack of cigarettes at the PX there at the Green Zone. And you didn't have to wear your battle rattle at that time.
Right.
You're just going to the PX. And they all have these T-wall barriers kind of everywhere you're going at Camp Phoenix and everything else out there. And I heard mortars before, so I was familiar with them, but I had not heard rockets before. And I heard incoming coming in. Sirens all were just constantly going off in the Green Zone. And then I felt this rocket, but the first thing I felt was this vibration in my chest, unlike a mortar. And I knew it was bad juju. So I hit the deck, and it was right in between these T-ball barriers, these concrete barriers.
Jersey barriers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Real tall ones. Mm-hmm. And the explosion was significant enough and close enough to where even though I was laying down, it lifted me up in the air, almost in an upright position, and then literally slammed me back down on my left side. So it was traumatic brain injury. I had neck issues, blew out my eardrums.
Shrapnel too?
No shrapnel,
No shrapnel.
luckily. But that was quite an experience. And so it was one of those things where I shrugged it off because those that have been in Iraq know that getting a helicopter is a flight out of Baghdad was so difficult at that time that even though that happened, I still made my helicopter 2 hours later and made it back down to my base.
What year was that?
2008.
Just when I got out.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I got mine in 2006, shrapnel to the foot. And a corpsman said I had a day and a half, of rest. Not for commands. They're like, okay, you're going to go stand post. I'm like, I had just gotten blown up and they wouldn't let me rest my leg.
Sounds like the Marines.
And so I'm back on post in Ramadi. I'm like, damn it, I was supposed to get like 3 days off. And I had a day and a half after I got hit. I was back at work.
Yep.
Thank you, Doc.
Sounds like the Marine
Thanks,
Corps.
Corpsman. Oh, wait, no. Yeah. It wasn't a corpsman. It was our lieutenant commander. He is a general now. I'm not going to tell you his name, but he's a piece of work.
Interesting.
He just got relieved of duty last year, by the way. So
karma can be, quite.
No 3-star for that guy. Sorry, buddy.
I'll bet.
Yeah. So, Navy corpsmen, do they eat crayons also?
Oh, come on, man.
No.
Damn crayon.
What we do is we try to arrange them in color and make sure they're packaged properly. That's what we do.
Dude, seriously, like pre-2006, I'd never heard anything about crayons. And then after 2006, it was like crayon eater this, crayon eater that. I'm like, where the hell did this come from?
Well, I will admit, but I've worked with every service, so I've done tours under the Army and Air Force and Marines and all of them, and a lot of grunts, whether it's Army or Marine Corps. I'm not saying a lot, but there have been a few that just were pretty dull. They came in and they were a grunt for a reason at that time.
Yeah.
But, that's like any other job field. I mean, you can look anywhere and see people that just aren't the sharpest of the bunch,
right. So I'm going to ask you a question.
That's funny. Sorry, that's just delayed.
It's just me,
No, that was good.
Ragging on the ground pounders because that's where I belong. I have a ground pounder attitude.
A doc is a ground.
Well,
you guys are ground pounders.
Yeah.
You're out there with us next to the radio
That's
guy.
true. That's
So
true.
is a doc a pogue to you?
No, not at all.
Okay.
A green side doc, definitely a grunt. Considered definitely
Pretty
a grunt.
much.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty much.
I know that he has different.
Blue side doc, that's a pogue. Yes, definitely.
What's a blue side?
Blue side, it's land side Navy. They don't go with the Marines.
Yeah,
they stay
never
back
been.
in.
I got you.
Like my dad was, he was an officer, Woodby Island, but he never went to Vietnam. So I would call him a pogue officer. And my dad was. Sorry, Dad. No offense, buddy.
So I'm going to ask you a serious question.
Uh-oh.
So as of late, this is like present day. I'm reading these articles that the military's kicking these people out because they refuse getting the COVID vaccine. So my first thing is, and so like for some reason today, people are like, I don't know what the hell's in the COVID vaccine, so I'm not going to take it. Well, guess what? Uncle Sam injected me with shit that I don't know what the hell it is, and that was okay. So why all of a sudden this COVID vaccine is so much different than say a
Anthrax
flu?
shots,
Any?
Oh,
Which,
it's
by the way, you
pretty
had all
apparent.
your anthrax shots, right?
Oh yeah.
You had all six.
Oh
six
yeah, I had
battery,
way
right?
more than anthrax. I had to get rabies just to go in Vietnam and North Korea.
Oh,
I had
God.
to get all kinds of stuff. But
So now why? So you did all that, but why is the COVID vaccine all of a sudden?
I'll tell you why. In my opinion, anyway. But because it's become so politicized. So you've got those that are pressuring Congress and others in the military to not prosecute or not let these people, get out on discharges like this, that it's their right to refuse that shot. But we know in the military, because we've gone through all these things, that, there are key folks that are there advising our top generals and our top admirals out there. These are not stupid people.
Right.
That didn't get there by accident.
Yes.
And, they have a pretty, there's so much in the medical field to this day that has been discovered through our military medicine channels, because you learn infection rates, you learn, diseases and how they're transmitted. I mean, the military has always been kind of top of the line as far as recognizing these things. We have to be ready for that, whether it's typhoid or yellow fever or malaria.
Malaria, yeah.
I mean,
I got loaded up with malaria.
Me too.
I went to Africa.
Exactly.
I went to.
So if we say,
was that place called?
And getting back to my answers, because I think it's become so politicized that it's become this issue of, well, if you're a vaxxer and you agree with it, then that must mean that you're liberal and you're just a yes man and you're going to go do it. If you look at it and say, well, there's not enough evidence and I'm standing my ground, then you're a gun-toting, Second Amendment Republican, and you're good to go. And Republicans have always traditionally, after the Civil War, should I say, have been associated with the military, whereas Democrats are kind of more on the other side because of funding and how that works. Republicans fund the military better than Democrats have historically.
Before the Civil War was.
Well, Civil War is flip-flopped.
Yeah, exactly.
So the Democrats were the true, flag raisers and things of that nature, that were really deep-rooted.
Hey, used to be one.
Traditional.
Way back in the day.
Conservative and, yeah. So I think it's become so politicized, and our nation has gotten to the point where, for some reason, I don't know if it's because of the pandemic or just because of the stress levels of things that have been kind of going on in the last 20, 30 years, continuous wars, all these things. But to me, it appears that there's just this tremendous amount of social phobia and anxiety that is out there, that exists. And it's gotten to the point where people have accepted things even though they know they're not correct. They've accepted the norm because they would rather stand for the principle, even though evidence might be right in their face, than to actually look at the truth and to evaluate it from an individual standpoint, from the middle ground, should I say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what I see as a problem.
Yeah.
Good.
It's
Good answer.
It's very mind-boggling to me. Like, there's hundreds of people in the military getting kicked out right now because they absolutely refuse this
And they
the vaccine.
And they should.
I agree with that 100%. But my thing is, like, man, you just got loaded up with God knows what. You don't know what the hell's in that.
Dude, I got anthrax. I got the peanut butter shot. I got,
and that's
we all
what I'm
got
saying.
that.
So if they didn't stand their ground, right, and let's just say they allowed these people not to get these things, then where does the line get drawn? So now we're going to go into a country where malaria is prevalent, but we're going to say,
Ooh, good point.
my immune system's better. I don't need that. So therefore, I'm going to refuse to get my malaria prophylaxis and infect others. Or, it's all about keeping the population safe.
When they made us take the malaria stuff, my skin had never been cleaner. So I was all about the malaria pills. Like, they gave us Cipro for 2 months because we went to Bangladesh in 07 for that little micro tornado. And we were fishing bodies out of the water, and we had to have our malaria shots.
Absolutely. Well, think about this for a second, okay? When the pandemic first started, you heard a few cases of ships that had to be quarantined.
Correct.
Entire ships, right? Mm-hmm. Now, since military medicine has taken its approach, you see people wearing masks on ships. You see them wearing masks, doing everything. They've had these shots because it is a requirement for them. Let me ask you this. When's the last time you've heard of a Navy ship having a problem with rampant illness?
That's true.
So if that's just the military has always been a small snapshot of our general population. It's always been that way. We're a very small percentage, but we're a snapshot and a representation of what is out there.
Oh, that's a pretty good way to look at it. I never thought about it like that.
I didn't think about that either. Yeah. Because like you said, when COVID first reared its ugly head in this country, I think it was an aircraft carrier. Yeah. The skipper turned around and went back, and he lost his job because it was dereliction of duty and unbecoming and all this other crap. And it's like, I'm just trying to save my sailors, man. Like, COVID's running rapid on my ship.
Did they let him go?
I think so. I didn't really follow it much.
Yeah. I haven't heard anything lately, but it was ugly, man. Like, I probably would have done the same thing. And like, that's the kind of commander or skipper that I want. Yeah. I want somebody that's going to look out for his guys.
That's right. Yeah. Or a lieutenant colonel that's not calling their boys a good piece of gear. Yeah.
Well, it's become so politicized and such a high tension thing that even as state surgeon for the VFW, for a while I was getting out there giving my spiel on, COVID and people taking precautions and please get the shot and do the right thing. And I just got to the point where I was just getting beat up by people. Yeah. I mean, not physically, but
verbally.
I was verbally, people were getting genuinely upset at me for throwing out what I felt and still feel is good, safe information.
Yes.
And medicine is just like anything else in life. We don't have the perfect answer.
It's always changing.
What works today may not work tomorrow.
Right.
And that doesn't mean it's not working or you're lied to. It just means that we have discovered more evidence that might suggest that, hey, we got to change course.
Amen.
That's how you problem solve. That's how you get there.
And this was a brand new epidemic, man. Like, how are you supposed to know how to treat this? Right. We're just rolling with it, man.
We were highly unprepared for it. Yeah, and we should 100%. Have been better prepared, if anything.
Yeah.
I mean, knowing what's happened in the past with Ebola and all these other outbreaks throughout.
That, that thing, what happened in Tennessee back in like the 30s and 40s, and even the Roman Empire, 180 AD, they had huge pandemic. And you know what? They still became like the greatest superpower in the world.
Yeah. So I don't know, but I from what I understand, there's like a pandemic that rolls through the planet like once every 100 years or so. So even like before this even happened, Bill Gates was saying like, no, there's a pandemic coming. But then when the pandemic hit, everybody was like, oh, he's evil. He called it. It's like, no, he's just looking at history, man. Like every 120 years it happens.
I mean, it just it's secular.
Yeah.
You know, history repeats
like
itself.
he didn't plan it. He was just saying, hey, it's been 100 years, so something's probably going to happen.
Yeah.
You know,
Exactly.
the philosopher Spinoza said, "Study the past, and you could be prepared for the future."
Well, it's important because history has a tendency to repeat itself. So,
Yep.
you know, it's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you would think that would prompt us to learn a bit better from it, but sometimes we're just not that far yet, are we?
Yeah, I think what you said before we even hit the record button that we use about less than 5% of our brains. So I think it's coming into play right now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, it's one of those things where, you know, you hear about what's going on with the ice caps melting and, you know, just the weather changes that we see, you know, because January has been
The fact that it was 76 degrees yesterday, that's kind of weird.
Well, 2022 is already bipolar.
Yeah,
I mean, can't you
Hey,
see?
I was in
Snow
shorts the other
today,
day,
75
and flip-flops.
degrees yesterday.
It was awesome.
Yeah, that's another touchy subject because the way I look at it is like I don't even million years ago, this planet was covered in ice. So you can't tell me that. I mean, yes, we're helping it along, but you can't tell me that we're the sole cause of global warming.
No, I don't necessarily agree with
Al
that
Gore
either.
might have been wrong.
Well,
Sorry,
I mean,
Mr. Vice President.
we are the only creature that's ever lived on the earth that has shaped the earth the way that we have.
100%.
So obviously,
Can't argue that.
Obviously, that does have an impact.
Yeah.
And, you know, whether it's waterways or pollution or whatever it might be. But,
Yeah.
you know, the fact is the earth is much larger than us.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it started off as just volcanic, you know, fluid. I mean, you know, I mean, the inner core of the earth right now is hotter than the surface of the sun, and it's just below our feet here.
Yeah.
And so, you know, the earth is going to keep spinning, and it's going to keep doing its thing, and it's going to have its ice ages, and it's going to have its volcanic activity. And it's going to do what it does.
And when it's tired of us, it's going to shake us like fleas.
Yeah, with
Like
or without it.
start all over.
So we just have to live,
Yeah.
you know, memento mori. We just have to remember that we are going to die.
There's definitely things that you have to do.
Yeah.
Preserve water, you know, your natural resources. Take care of your natural resources. Obviously, that's a no-brainer. But like, so this is way off subject. All these battery operated cars, I don't really think that's going to help
You mean
anything.
those electric things?
Yeah.
Like
That's-
the
I think
Tesla and all that kind of stuff?
It's very like futuristic,
Way to
and
go,
that's
Elon.
cool. But
Way to
like,
go,
I
buddy.
don't think that's
Well, I mean, I think I see why it's happening because, you know, think about why nations go to war. And, you know, we go to war over resources
yes,
Land.
and, you know, oil and petroleum and all these different things. And so
lithium.
if
a 3% tax on goods and services
Well,
way back in the day.
Yeah.
well, and then think about what the
Tea?
pandemic's done. Think about what the last 20 years of being at war in Afghanistan, all these things have done. What it's done is it's made us realize that, you know, when we enter that global economy, it's great, but all it takes is one bloop and that global economy will start to fail in different places, right? So kind of getting back to the self-sufficiency where we're not relying on other countries for the amount of things that we import from them is really kind of key, in my opinion, to sustain.
That's why we buy American.
Yes.
Authentically
There you
American.
go.
Dean
There you
Wegner.
go.
There's a shout out to you.
Yeah.
Well, we keep going to these battery operated vehicles. We're going to be heavily reliant on Afghanistan, and we know how recently that just went down.
Yeah. Well, I don't
Totally
think,
boggle that one up.
yeah, a true self-sufficient nation is, I don't think there's really any such thing anymore because of how the economy's so intertwined. I just don't see how that's possible.
Yeah.
How are we looking?
Freaking
Commander?
politics. We're at 55 minutes
Okay.
right now.
That's not bad. It's
Yeah,
pretty
we're good. So, like I said earlier, Master Chief is, in my eyes, is a true war hero and somebody that I definitely look up to.
And we want to thank you very much for coming on our show. I know it's been a couple months. Different stuff has happened and you couldn't come, but we're really happy to have you.
Well, I'm glad to be here. I mean, it's an honor, and for those who are listening, Happy New Year, Happy 2022, and keep each other safe. It's especially as veterans, take care of one another.
Yep.
Yes, 100%.
Make that call.
And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for
Chief.
your service. And also, a lot of people don't do this, but I want to thank your wife for her service, because
She had to
what
put
you
up with
put her through in those 27 years, you should be ashamed of yourself.
Yeah, I sometimes wonder how she put up with it.
Yeah.
Happy anniversary to you
Takes
guys
a
too.
strong woman, that's for sure. It really does. But yeah, our anniversary would be March 2nd.
That's coming up.
Yeah.
So you're in February, you're in March, mine's in July. For number 4.
You're just a puppy to us.
I'm a puppy, but it's second wife. The second one turned out way better than the first one, and yeah,
All right.
that's right.
So
That's going on the air right now.
we kind of got your story, and even though we jumped around a lot, my apologies.
Oh yeah,
my apologies. We jumped
We've
around.
been out of practice.
But
Yeah,
it has been a long time. But over the next 6 months, 12 months, 3 years, what do you got going on, Master Chief?
what do I have going on?
yeah, what are you gonna do?
I'm going to continue the great things I do with some of these organizations, although I might have to back off a little bit because I'm getting more involved in the workforce and pulling out of retirement a bit. But, between the Tennessee Honor Flight board directors and getting these flights going again, I think that's a really big thing. And it's a great honor because there's just not a lot of World War II veterans left. Korean War veterans, very few of them left as well. So, I think it's really important to give back as veterans, like you were saying earlier.
Yes.
Continue, support with the VFW and getting resources in the hands of our veterans is probably the most important thing to me because, I'm a big advocate on suicide prevention with veterans. And if I just encourage listeners to just look up, the things that make people suicidal. What are the key factors that are out there? And, look around at your veteran population. If you see somebody has a high risk, that there's a risk factor going on, like, say, divorce, or maybe they're in financial trouble. You notice maybe they're withdrawn, they're not communicating anymore with you. It doesn't take much effort to reach out to a fellow veteran. And I'm not saying you can cure their problem, but what I'm saying is that, with a little compassion and a little caring, you can get them the resources they need that could be a game changer, could be a lifesaver.
It's funny that you mentioned that. I'm scheduling a QPR for all of us. Question, what does QPR stand for? Question, prognosis for suicide prevention versus moral injury. So we will be having one at our VFW sometime soon. I don't know when.
I look forward to hearing about that. And, I think it's important to get that message out. And it's something that a lot of people are very uncomfortable talking about and, really discussing in depth because we just want to kind of look the other way and pretend it's not happening with other people. But, the more that we can educate ourselves, the more that we can kind of bring ourselves into the loop and recognize how critical it can be.
Yes.
I think the better prepared we are as a veteran force.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask you another question. All right. Imagine that. Say I get the call at 3:00 in the morning. My veteran buddy's obviously in distress.
Yes.
I'm not qualified to take this call. What do I do?
Correct. Well, it really depends. I mean, if they're truly suicidal and they're on the phone with you, don't let them go off that phone until you have gotten the proper resources. So, and I just did this a few months ago. I had a veteran that I stayed on line with for several hours who was suicidal. And then I just listen to them. Hey, do you have a plan? Don't be afraid to ask them questions. Do you have lethal means? Do you have a gun in the house? Do you plan to use it? You've got to ask them these questions.
They're hard questions to
They
ask.
are very hard questions. And if you really truly feel they're suicidal, like I kind of felt with the gentleman I was dealing with, I said, hey, there's some wonderful resources. Did you know Tennessee is leading the way in most of the country with regards to our suicide prevention program? Let me get somebody on the phone that can really help guide you through some of these resources. Because you said that, you just can't take it anymore. Your wife left you and you're broke. Okay, well, let's look at some resources where we can maybe help you with the broke part and get you through the grieving process with this relationship, and then get them connected on that phone before you hang up. Have it to the point to where it's just a transition from you talking to that person to the hotline. Because the Tennessee Suicide Hotline is not just for people who are suicidal. It's for folks that are caregivers, family members, fathers, brothers, sisters. Anybody can use it just to ask for advice. They're not going to record you and say, oh, we're going to get a police officer out to your house. That's not how that suicide prevention works. If you're having a tough day at work and you just need somebody to talk to, that hotline is there for them. But unlike other states, our state hotline is directly connected to the veteran hotline. So that makes it so much more easier now. So it doesn't matter what number you call, you're going to get the veteran hotline for that veteran. There's a way to get that.
That's awesome.
Nice. That's good work.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I appreciate you coming on with us.
Thanks again, Master Chief.
I enjoyed it. And hopefully I'll be back on again. And this
yeah, we definitely
my first
will.
podcast.
Yeah.
I had no idea what to expect.
Dude,
I'll
you
be
did
honest.
awesome.
I was a
You
little
did
bit
awesome.
nervous.
Yeah. It was pretty easy, wasn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't too
Just
bad.
have a little conversation.
Yeah, not too bad.
Thanks, Commander.
Yes. A couple months ago, we had a Vietnam veteran sitting in this very chair, and he was shaking like a leaf.
After 5 minutes, he was like,
his stories were just flowing.
Wow.
But unfortunately, he called me the night before his podcast was supposed to air and asked me not to host it because he wasn't comfortable with his story. But
really?
he did great. He did.
But he was great. But I understand.
Some people
these
are
guys
just not ready to get their stuff out there yet.
Yeah. I feel for these guys, man.
So do
I really do.
Yeah, it's a little tough, but it's getting it out there and not knowing who's going to be listening is probably the most difficult part.
Yeah.
If you could have guaranteed him that, hey, this is only going to go out to your Vietnam buddies, he probably would have had a whole different approach. With
Right.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. He had the one story that I'm not going to mention his name, so I think I can tell this story without being in trouble. But he mentioned one part when he was in Vietnam that there was a curfew, and God forbid the person that broke curfew because like they're spraying the jungle, because it's like, and I get it, like it's bad. Like it didn't matter if it was a woman, a child, whatever, man, you're probably going to go down. But listen, there's a curfew for a reason.
Yeah.
We don't want to die. We want to go back to our families.
Exactly.
So you did what you got to do. You do what you got to do to stay alive and come back to your wives, your mothers, your fathers, your brothers, your sisters. That's the number one goal, to go home.
And I think anybody who's probably been in combat would agree with that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. But, and there are some that, you're talking about moral injury earlier that, have those things. And I remember in Iraq during Ramadan, there was negligent
Ramadan.
discharge that had killed some people on a convoy. And even though it was an accident, the moral injury that occurs with people when something like that happens.
It's horrible.
It's just.
I broke down. Like when I was doing training with moral injury, when they brought it up, I bawled for like an hour.
Yeah, it's a hard thing to accept and deal with because it just disagrees so much, and you feel like, oh my gosh, it hits you in a whole different way.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yep. So,
Crazy.
But that's what veterans deal with, and that's why it's so important to get the message out that, that's why we're brothers and sisters. We want to hear from our veteran population. We want to do better by them. We want to make sure that, there's a listening ear and somebody to support you. So, if there's anybody out there that's listening that has a difficult time coping and dealing, reach out, let us know. Reach out to
call
VFW.
us, call the hotline,
call these
call
organizations.
your battle buddy, call
Anybody.
somebody.
For sure,
Absolutely.
Yeah, my phone's always on, and I would take a call any time of night. So,
Got it.
and again, I'm not qualified to take that call, but I would gladly take that call and get them the help that they need. I always tell people, whatever you need, all my veteran people, whatever you need, call me. I'm pretty sure I'm not going to be able to help you, but I know somebody.
Yeah. Somebody
I know
always knows
somebody. Yeah, I know somebody. If that person doesn't know somebody, they know somebody. You know what I'm saying? We have a very intertwined network.
We do.
And I'm very proud of what we do here in Middle Tennessee. I think we have a great group. We have a great core, and we do a lot of good things.
Amen to that.
That's great.
This young man right across from me right here, he's a freaking miracle worker.
I try. I only can do as much as I can.
Well, he's out there an awful lot.
But hopefully, hopefully in the next 3 years, I can do a lot more by getting that degree.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think Facebook is kind of tricked because I think they might think there's about 10 of you out there.
Yes.
I know.
I don't know.
I mean, this morning,
He's got like a time machine or something, man, like a teleport.
I wish they had, dude. I wish they had teleports. I could be in like 5 places at once. Yeah. It'd be awesome. But thanks again, Master Chief.
Thank you, Master Chief.